Are we ready? If you'll stand with me. Mr. Brooks.
Shall we pray? Gracious Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this day that you've given to us, thankful for the opportunity that we have to come out to this meeting tonight. We're thankful, Father, for how you've blessed us and the great community that we have, the city, the state, the county that we live in. Father, we just pray tonight for your will to be done. In this meeting, we pray for unity, we pray for clarity of discussion, we pray for decisions that are made that they're in the best interest of the citizens of Vienna. We just ask that you put a guard upon each one that speaks, whether it's in public forum or from the council. We just pray that each will have a guard and things that are said will be done in accordance to your will and to your honor. We recognize, Father, our leaders are here tonight. They've been given the responsibility by you and by the voters. And we just pray that everything that's said and done will be done for your honor and for your glory. For it in your son's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Councilman Thatcher. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I call to order this regular session of the Vienna City Council. Having taken roll and having a quorum, we will proceed. The first thing on our agenda for this evening, before we get to the public forum, is a recognition of the individuals, our employees and our crew of both the Parks Department and Public Works that worked hard, very long hours, and a lot of work to do that. So this evening, we're going to recognize the crews from both of those departments. And I would ask first that those that are here from the Parks Department, please come forward first. So, I have the three gentlemen, if you can stand in the front. You can stand right up here. We have obviously more certificates than we have Parks crew that was able to come out this evening, but we want to go ahead and read their names as well so that we can recognize them. As your name is called, step forward, and we have the awesome privilege tonight of our Ultimate Holidays Queen will be giving them their certificates this evening. So our Parks Liaison is going to read the names, then we'll present with the certificates.
Matt Kiocho. Herb All.
No. Nope. Yeah.
Greg Louderman. And Ryan Schoonover. Yes. And the people who aren't present is Kevin Gilkey, Herb All, Derek Knapp, and John Dooley II.
Gentlemen, if you'll scoot over this way, we'll get behave yourself, Rod. Thank you. Our next crew will be from Public Works, and where'd Craig go? Oh, there he is. While he's making his way up here to read, and he's obviously got a larger crew, as I was leaving the house, I got a call from a news outlet, and the question that was asked to me was, Mayor, how is it that when other municipalities in the area was struggling with the snow and combating 2 back-to-back snowstorms, Vienna seemed to handle it with ease and do an amazing job? And I said, well, it's very easy. We have good people. We don't have, well, let me correct that. We have great people. And, you know, Craig, who was our Public Works Director prior to the snowstorms coming, contacted me. We went over his plan to address the city as a whole. And I told the individual from the news outlet, I said, we had good people, a good plan, and we made the mission happen. And we took care of the Vienna residents. So Craig did all of that legwork and put all of that together and made sure we were prepared. So you didn't get a certificate of appreciation,
I never did.
but I wanted to publicly thank him this evening. So if the crew from Public Works will come forward. She's a little young, isn't she? Look, we're starting an apprenticeship program here in the city of Vienna. Who is this? Who do we have with us?
This is Olivia.
Hi, Olivia. But this crew's a little bit bigger. So Craig's going to read through these names this evening, and you get to present them.
Let's start out with Cedric Alexander. He's our youngest member of the crew, so as you can tell. So, yeah. And we'll go with the oldest member of the crew, so which is Bill Blair. So a little story about Bill Blair. He's been here so long. When he first started treating roads, he climbed the back of a truck and was throwing it out with shovels. That was the snow removal at the time. So had to fight a few Indians off at that time, but he was here. So next that would be Danny Cunningham. Dan's our mechanic. He's the one that keeps everything running. So when these guys break things, which does happen, not on purpose, but Dan bring back Dan, make sure it gets repaired, gets it back out. So John Dooley. You probably heard his name in the last crew, but that's his son that works for the park. So we'll call him John Dooley 1, right? So we'll go with John Farr. We like calling him Farball, so right, John? He's actually my foreman, so he's been here for 26 years. So Dustin Hall. Dustin, if you guys ever get down to Spencer Landing, that's his part-time job, right? So to maintain the Spencer Landing and all the areas around that 28th Street and 32nd Street. So Brian Rader. He meets our ex-law enforcement criteria, so he keeps everybody controlled. So Josh Richards.
Josh Richards and Company.
Yeah. Josh's full-time job is actually in the sewer department, so he's runs the back trucks and makes sure the mains are clear. So Joe Runyon. Joe's full-time job is also the sewer department. He maintains the main lift stations and individual lift stations throughout the city. So Josh Runyon.
Josh, his full-time job is actually repairing water lines, and I think are you class 1 now, right? Water operator?
Yeah.
So you'll be taking your class 2s next week, or is it week after?
I took them last week.
Okay. Took them last week?
Yeah.
You passed?
Did you just answer C on everything?
Andrew Sears. Andrew's full-time job is also in the sewer department. He was the one that works with Josh. They go out and maintain the main lines and remove any blockages. So, Donald Starcher. Donnie is what we call him. He actually is one of our mechanics. His full-time job is one of the mechanics. He helps stay out repairing equipment. So, Dave Thorne. Dave was, how long have you been here, Dave?
Almost 44 years.
44 years, so.
Almost.
He is one of his full-time jobs, actually one of my water treatment operators. He's a class 2, so. And, that's it, the guys are here, so.
Give him another round of applause. Who did we miss? What?
Zach,
Is he there?
Zach get one? See, Zach's special. So.
Is he in there?
I got plenty of paperwork.
Sorry.
We got a Sharpie, we'll just fix it.
Yeah, I must have deleted him, so yeah, that's a hint, Zach. Zach, how long you been here?
That would be 13 years.
Yeah, Zach come to us, he was actually a part-time, worked in the grounds and maintenance. He has moved up, he got hired on full-time, and now he's actually one of my crew leaders, one of the better employees that I have. So he maintains crews that goes out and he does water line repairs, street repairs, sewer line fixes. So sorry, Zach. So
I forget it.
he's also, if you all ever know, this week he come in. He was here late, come to work, so he only showed up at 5:30 because he's out in the middle of Route 50 repairing a Jeep for his wife. So he showed up late that day at 5:30. So we start at 7. But that's Zach. Usually it's me or Johnny or Zach's the first one's there, and it's usually around 5 o'clock. But Zach seems to be beating most
Bill's
of them.
getting old. He started slacking. It used
I
to
was
be.
Bill's a part-timer, so yeah, sorry, Zach.
You were putting the salt in the truck, weren't you, when I was up there? Yeah. I pulled in, he thought there were police coming or something. He said, I'm supposed to be here. Then when I got out and pulled my toboggan off, he said, oh, it's just you.
Oh, we would know it wasn't the police department because there was work going on up there, so, okay. Sorry.
If we can kind of scoot in, make 2 layers, and you can step up on that step if you need to, and we'll get some of the guys in front of you.
That's short, guys.
Frank, come on. That's it. Well, I'll step back here. No hunkering down, right?
Can we see everybody? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys have the rest of the Thank you. You enjoy your next event. I can just hear it. Calm the whole time. All right, moving right along, the next item agenda that we have is our public forum. We have 3 individuals signed up this evening to participate, that being the first, Brian Flynn.
Mayor, council. I apologize I wasn't here at the last meeting, the first meeting of everybody convening. Those that know me, my fiance, her daughter had twins. We were up in Columbus at the NICU, so that's why we weren't here. I just want to start off by, of course, they've already hightailed it out of here, but yes, the road crews, they did an excellent job in keeping our roads clear, a lot clearer than surrounding cities. But my main concern is, do we not have in the budget money for snow blowers and or clientele to run those snow blowers to clear the walks? I say that because right now my car is kind of, shot. It's sitting in the parking lot, won't run, so I have to ride the bus. Walking down to the bus stop on 19th Street, the sidewalk is covered with snow. I mean, and it's not just snow, it's snow and ice from the plows that shoved it up on the sidewalk. Luckily, I was taking snow shovel going up to my fiance's house to clean her driveway and walks. So I cleared out a path. But second storm came through and guess what? Covered it up. So my only concern is, we have bus stops around the city. We need to keep them clear for the elderly. For those that don't have the means or the capability to go out and clean them, we need to make sure they're clean. Clean the sidewalks. We need to be the example, and I've said this before, we need to be the example for the rest of the state and the nation that we can be the best city there is. Last week, the unfortunate news of a woman freezing to death happened in this area. Now, for whatever reason, and I'm not going to go into details of how or why it happened, all I know is we as a city can do better. We need to do better. Where are our warming stations? The Salvation Army is in Parkersburg, not in Vienna. Why are we not opening up the community building? Why are we not opening up churches? Why are we not opening up these vacant buildings that sit here doing nothing just to offer people warmth? My landlord made it very clear that we're not allowed to have pets. And the other night, when it was going below freezing, well, below 0 degrees, there was a stray cat. I know, it's just a cat. But I have a heart. And I built a makeshift bed outside because God forbid if the cat came into my apartment, I'd be evicted. Where has our humanity gone of caring for individuals and making sure that everybody is fed and everybody's kept warm? We need to do better. So I ask that, we start clearing the sidewalks where it needs to be done. We need to set up better bus stop areas. I've used the bus stop at Walmart. There's no cover. I mean, there's a cover, but they need to put those plastic sheathings on the front to keep the wind out. It'd be a little bit warmer. Maybe I seem to be bickering, but when you actually experience the stuff firsthand, because you have to use it, because your own transportation is out of order, you start to realize there's more important things in this city to take care of. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim Williams.
Here. Papers, whatever he wants. Kill a few trees this afternoon. I'm gonna hit you last because I think I counted right, but I'm not sure. I'm gonna shortchange you if it didn't.
I'll just cross share, Tony.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I didn't count right. You just have to crib. Good evening. My name is Kim Williams. I live at 801 49th Street in Vienna. And thank you, Council, for allowing me the opportunity to be here this evening and to speak to you. I'm coming tonight to want to talk about resolution number 3, approving 2 vacancies to the utility board. Randall C. Rapp, Michael Simmons, and Kim Williams. There's some confusion on the agenda about this resolution I'd like to bring to Council's attention. There are 3 people being considered for 2 spots on the utility board. Okay, the first person to be considered is Mayor Rapp. He is being considered for an appointment for a 4-year term beginning February 25th, 2025, and ending February 24th, 2029. I am being considered for a reappointment. I am already on the utility board. This is also a 4-year term beginning February 25th, 2025, and ending February 24th, 2029. Michael Simmons. Michael Simmons is being considered for a full and regular 4-year term beginning January 1st, 2025, and ending January 1st, 2029. Here's the problem. There's not a term available beginning January 1st, 2025, and ending January 1st, 2029. There are only 2 appointments, and they both begin February 25th of 2025, and then they run the full 4-year term. So, about appointments to the board. Sorry. That would be 13002. Okay, all vacancies shall be filled for the unexpired term only, and all other appointments shall be for a term of 4 years to commence on the date following the scheduled expiration date of the previous term. The ordinance goes on to read, any director shall be eligible for reappointment upon the expiration of his or her term. I currently serve on the unexpired term that is ending February 24th, 2025. The council unanimously approved my appointment to the utility board, which began January 1st, 2025. I served 4 years on the utility board as a member of council before I was appointed to the unexpired term. Regardless of tonight's outcome, my term on the utility board is not over until February 24th of 2025. Only my reappointment and Mayor Rapp's appointment conform to the ordinance as it's written. So, about the utility board. Powers and duties. So I think it's really important to understand that the utility board operates separately from Vienna City Council. The utility board shall have the full and complete authority for the supervision and management and operation of water system, sewer system, and stormwater. The utility board shall have the power and authority to make all contracts, agreements, and other matters as necessary or proper for the full and complete supervision, management, and control of the system. So that's in Vienna Municipal Code. I mention this because it's very important to keep in mind that decisions that the utility board makes do not come back to the city council for approval. I mean, possibly a rate increase would come back, but for the most part, generally speaking, that board makes its own decisions. The utility board should not be political. I wasn't around when the original utility board ordinance was passed, but under 130.02, composition and qualifications of the board of directors, so the utility board should consist of 5 directors, 2 serve from council, and then 3 are just qualified residents of the city of Vienna. So according to the ordinance, the remaining 3 directors shall be citizens and residents of Vienna of outstanding reputation, ability, and integrity. All directors shall be appointed by the council of the city. There's if you look through the ordinances, that most of the city boards and commissions shall be nominated by the mayor and confirmed by council, but the utility board is different. Anyone on council, including the mayor, can nominate a citizen of good reputation, ability, and integrity. I make this distinction because it's important.
I'm sorry, Ms. Williams, your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you. Next on the list, Mike Gibbs.
Yes, hello, my name's William M. Gibbs, everybody calls me Mike. I live-
Sir, can you pull the microphone in
I'm
or
sorry.
stand a little closer? Thank you.
Yeah, my name's William M. Gibbs, everyone calls me by middle name Michael, or Mike. I live at 4113 4th Avenue, and I've been here approximately somewhere close to 30 years. The only thing I want by coming up here, and I used to have a couple of aunts, my mother lived up here, I grew up in Ravenswood, which by the way, I was down there a couple weeks ago, they didn't do anything to the streets. There was snow covered, packed down, so I appreciated the work up here getting the streets clear. But my main concern up here today is costs. They want to do some expansion down here in Spencer Landing. I don't want to see my taxes go up any more than what they have. I think they're going to get unreasonable if we don't watch what we're doing. For instance, if they want more things to do here in Vienna with money, they should have not spent $8.2 million on repairing a swimming pool that can't be open for what, 3 months out of the year, 4 months out of the year. And then they didn't have it all, to my understanding, they had to borrow $300,000, so we're paying $30,000 a month, and when we get done finishing it, we'll have $10 million in the swimming pool. So I go to California once in a while, and then I watch a program, maybe some of you watch this, called $1 Million House Hunters. For 10 million, 8.2 million, 10 million, you could go to California and buy a pretty darn nice mansion for that kind of money. 8.2 million was a huge amount of money to spend on a pool that's only open 3 months out of the year, especially when you have those projects you wanted to do. Should have watched your money. Also, I don't believe that $8.2 million should have been spent just by the mayor or the city council. I think the citizens repairing the pool should have been advised on this, because for one thing, back in the 60s, the pool was a very big thing. A lot of people don't go to the pool like they used to, so it's not as popular as place as it used to be. So it's a lot of money that we don't have. That's basically what I've got to say. I enjoy living here. I don't want to be a pain to anybody, but I'm just mainly concerned. Watch the taxes, watch what you spend. Just want a clean place to live, and a low tax base. So that's all I got this evening. Thank you very much.
Let the record reflect that the minutes from the previous meeting have been posted. If there are no changes, the minutes will be added to the record. We have no unfinished business, so we move on to new business. The first item on our agenda this evening under new business is a discussion regarding the Manville Land Use Covenant Agreement. Is that you, Councilman Leach?
I want to defer to Russ because this is
Can you speak into your microphone, please?
yeah, and I'm going to defer to Russ on this, but he's talked with the Manville official most recently. He's got the better legal handle on it as city attorney.
All right, how much do you want me to go in? How much detail do you want me to go to in general?
I'd say just give him the overview, and then anybody has any questions, I'll kick in if I can help.
Okay. Right now, the issue that we're dealing with is there are essentially three restrictive covenants that are in the deeds for the Manville property. And the city bought those knowing that those restrictive covenants were in place, and they ran with the land, as the term goes. So for a long period of time, we've been attempting to work with Johns Manville to have the restrictive covenants removed. In my most recent conversation with them, which was in December, essentially, the attorney that I was talking with said, if the city would essentially indemnify Johns Manville from any damages for any future litigation, including paying costs, they would be, it sounds like he would recommend that to his client to essentially remove the restrictive covenants from the deed. And I won't go into the details of the mechanism for how you do that, but it's fairly routine. But that means the city would have to be confident in the work that it's done to the property, that in the end, if there were future litigation, that even though, if there were some future litigation, that even if Manville were to be named in the suit as being a cause of, or part of that, part of the issue down there, that we would essentially be on the hook for whatever we had done or failed to do, and whatever they had in the past done or failed to do. And so the real issue is essentially how confident are you in the work that we've done for the remediation. Our second option is to, and I'm not recommending that. I'm saying I don't have the expertise to go through. It's essentially, we'll call it a deck action, but what you're essentially doing is you're petitioning the circuit court and you're asking the circuit court to remove the restrictive covenants. I think at some point we may have to consult with an environmental lawyer to see how. The first part of that is easy. That's just a property question. We petition the court, we present evidence. The court says, we think that you've done what you need to do to take the restrictive covenants out, and issues an order essentially removing the restrictive covenants. Manville would have to be named a party to that, and we would proceed on, and we would have the property subject no longer to the restrictive covenants that are in the deed, but only those restrictions that have been placed on the Manville property by the West Virginia DEP. So essentially that's where we're at. I obviously can't make a decision, and I want to talk to, I'm going to talk to Jim a little bit more to get some more details about the remediation that has gone on down there before I make a recommendation to council. But I just wanted to let you guys know that as of my last conversation with John's Manville, that was essentially where we were at. That they were saying, put your money where your mouth is. Are you confident that you're good? If you're confident that your remediation has been satisfactory, then absolve us from liability and any future damages. And it sounds like they would certainly be willing to sign that if that attorney would be willing to make that recommendation to his client. If we were confident in our position, if we would agree to that, essentially. Now, I can't promise you that that's not going to change between now and then. I've dealt with Manville at various points over the years, and I've dealt with two different lawyers, and I've gotten, I don't want to say two different opinions, but my initial thought was, or hope, and I was caused to believe that this would be an issue, and then as time has gone on, I think some more conservative-minded folks have gotten involved, and this is where we sit. Anything else?
Maybe we just open the questions first, and then I think there are a couple things that we need to understand about this liability issue. But
So I'm just gonna kind of condense that. So if the city is willing to say, we assume all responsibility for anything bad that were to be present or to happen with the former John Manville property, the Johnville Corporation would say, we could release it, but we're then taking on all liability for something that may be found or may not be found, I guess, in that case. Is that the short version of that?
More or less, that's what they're saying, is you can have the property without the restrictive covenants, and granted, we're still very early on in this. They may change their mind at some point, but the impression that I've been left with is, you have the property as long as you basically absolve us from liability and agree to pay any costs or any damages that Manville might have incurred in the past. Or we can ask a circuit court judge to essentially remove the restrictive covenants. That would involve petitioning the court, naming Manville as a party, and presenting evidence and getting a judge's ruling to remove those restrictive covenants.
And now I'm ready to add something on this. So, like for example, I'm looking at the deed where Manville sold the property to Structural Resources, who was our predecessor in interest, right? That's who we bought it from after they made the mess down there. So, in this deed already, the first of all are the land use covenants we're discussing. Don't disturb groundwater, which you can't be in anyway. You can't drill well, but whatever. And it can't be used for residential purposes, etc. And then this conveyance is made further subject to the assumption by grantee, and that would have been Structural Resources, okay, the receiver of the property, of all environmental liabilities and obligations, and grantee's agreement to perform corrective action pursuant to the purchase and sale agreement, which is the voluntary remediation program that this property was entered into to clean up, all right? And also that should the grantee fail to complete the remediation, then Manville already by this deed had the right to step back in, finish the remediation, and bill Structural Resources to collect that money from them. So I'm not gonna offer a legal opinion on this, but this deed certainly has language in it that would seem to indicate that this has already happened. That all of the environmental liability has already been assumed by every successor in interest, because similar language is in the deed, and this language runs with the land or with the deed. So I'm of the belief that we need to view this in terms of, does this mean anything? Because I'm not certain that it does. And so Manville made the point, because, you know, we've been working with them since February, they've been, of 2024, trying to get this done. And they've just been non-communicative, you know, they just haven't responded much. But so he made the point to me before he talked to Russ in December, he's like, well, we don't benefit from being the participant in the voluntary remediation program, okay? So just in a nutshell what that means. Structural Resources is the one that entered the VRP and had the requirements to clean up the property. When the city of Vienna purchased that, and that was before my first term, so it was somewhere probably between 2012 and 2016 or whatever it was. That's part of the deed. But anyway, Vienna assumed those responsibilities. Voluntary remediation program, in essence, says that if you comply with all of the requirements, monitoring, testing, remediation, environmental controls, all of which are already complete, and our final report has already been approved, both with respect to the risk assessment, in other words, what is the risk, you know, in using this property in the future, and also compliance with the remediation requirements. In other words, all the work has been done. The only thing that this final report has been waiting on all this time is the modification of the land use covenants. And so this came up while Randy Rapp was mayor, and the question was put to him, I think first, if we don't modify these land use covenants, right now, that property is much more restricted as a whole than what the DEP is requiring after our evaluation, testing, and remediation. And so the purpose in getting these land use covenants modified, eased, is to be in compliance with what is required from the site to protect public safety and health and make the property as usable as possible, but not more. And so to sum it up, I think that what Manville is asking for appears to be nothing more than has already been conveyed, which is the liability for the property, and that it is definitely in the city's best interest to put land use restrictions on this parcel that give us the best development potential for whatever, be it something the city determines to do, whether it becomes private development, but that it makes the property as marketable as possible. So that would be my summary of what I think of what they're proposing. I think it's no skin off our nose, and what the impact is of, and why we're trying to do it in the first place.
And just to make it clear, or maybe make it muddy, it is me talking. You have the property, you already have the property, and you can use it and continue to use it just like we've done as part of, it's not technically part of the park system, but we've been using it essentially as a park. And Mr. Leach is correct, there are more restrictions presently on the property than what the DEP contemplates and what they've designed, and what they're satisfied with as far as being restrictions. And those are the 3 additional restrictions that are contained in the face of the deed itself. And so to remove those 3 restrictions would essentially allow more flexibility with the property. Now, I'm not saying that this council or any council would ever intend to sell the property or anything like that, but the restrictions that are on it that are in the deed, coupled with the restrictions that were placed by the DEP, which, if you remove those old restrictions, would allow a more flexible use a broader use of the property. And at some point, it would certainly affect the marketability of the property. And again, I want to make it clear, I've not had any discussion with anybody about selling the Manville property or anything like that. I'm just saying, in the event that there was a council that down the road wanted to do something more with the property than what it is currently being used for, the restrictions that are in the Manville deed, in the face of the deed, if those are removed, that makes it more flexible. And that includes doing things with it that the city might want to do in and of itself. But, and Jim, I agree with Jim to some degree, as far, and actually I agree with Jim for the most part. Manville has essentially, I don't want to say abdicated, but that's the best word that I can think of right now. Manville has essentially passed off its responsibility as far as for liability. We have assumed that when we bought the property. But what I'm not comfortable, and I'm comfortable with saying that in the general real property area of law, you know. But there are also federal things that are out there in addition to the brownfield. There's CERCLA, there are various statutes that I would anticipate the cost could come in litigation, because I would expect that if there were something, and I'm not saying that there is, and I'm comfortable with the remediation that has gone on with Manville, but I'm a lawyer, I don't think I'm allowed to say things with 100% certainty. But in the event that there were litigation at a future point, I would expect Manville would be named as a party, just as Structures would be named as a party, just as the city of Vienna would be named as a party, because those are the three individuals. And Mr. Dietzer would know better than I, because he's dealt with a lot more mass tort litigation than I have, about how whenever you're suing a group of people, you want to get to as many pockets, or whenever you're suing somebody, you want to get to as many pockets as you can. There are provisions under CERCLA that allow you to go back and address insurance that previous owners had and so forth. But I don't want to get lost in the weeds. I think that Mr. Leach is right that some of that, or at least it certainly appears that all of that has been passed on to us because we bought the property with that understanding. And I think council had good reasons to buy the property, but that's neither here nor there. So I understand that even with that provision, I would expect the plaintiff's lawyer to name all of the parties in this chain to any litigation, and we would be doing an agreement that would essentially be indemnifying for that. Now, that number may be limited to just their initial defense, court costs, a summary judgment, or a dismissal from the suit for Manville, because we have assumed the risk, but the cost is not de minimis. And I couldn't estimate what the cost would be, but it's not going to be a de minimis cost. It will be, it could be a cost. And that's only under the assumption that somebody would be damaged in some way by the use of the property. And that's a lot of assumptions. I think that's clear. Does anybody have any questions for me about that?
I have some questions. I've read both deeds, from Manville to Structured Resources, as well as Structured Resources to us. And I've also researched a lot of the triad reports and so forth, environmental studies. The land use covenants currently in place on the Spencer's Landing property specify that the property is only to be used for recreational use. And
Can I interject something there?
sure.
So just so everybody's clear, Spencer's Landing is done.
So you're only talking about
That's
the
exactly
production
right.
side?
Spencer's Landing has got its land use covenants. We got it upgraded to the recreational use, and we agreed to that because that was our intent.
But it's still subject to those three, the restrictive covenants.
No, the land use covenants that are on it are the ones that the DEP agreed to. It didn't become an issue. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm right at this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so that, because and I have to go back, and this is a technical detail, but when they did the risk assessment on Spencer's Landing, and realize, of course, it's very different than the production side, that the risk assessment permitted the land use restriction to be recreational across the board, okay, all parts of the property with the environmental controls.
Right.
So now I can't say necessarily, remember, I didn't go look at the Riverside, okay? Whether that was somehow different, but I believe it is. But I do know that we have our certificate of completion with those covenants allowing for recreational use on the Riverside, and that use determination was derived from the testing, risk assessment, and remediation that was done on the Riverside parcel. So I don't think, it's not a part of the conversation here.
That's
It's
good,
done.
I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
When you were saying John's Manville property, I just assumed you were talking about
It's
those.
just the production side, that's all, the Riverside's done.
Okay, so in the original deed from Manville to Structures Resources and Structures Resources to Vienna, it was talking about the whole property, both sides, if I'm not mistaken. And in that, in those deeds, it talks about, you know, like you said, no recreational use, no nursing homes, no schools, all that. What parts of those restrictions in the deeds, I'm not clear on that. What portion of those restrictions are you wanting lifted?
This is where I'm, and like I said, Jim may disagree with me. This is the way I look at it. There are restrictive covenants that attach to all 32 acres of the property. The riverside, we'll call them the riverside and the production side. The green side and the concrete side. Those restrictive covenants live in the deed. And they limit, to the property's use for certain things. You can't have people stay for more than 24 hours. You can't use it to build a hospital, school, residences. You can't develop that. Those live in the deeds, from my recollection. And then we have remediated the green side of the property, such that if those restrictions in the deed weren't there, you would only be beholden to the restrictions that the DEP has generated. But right now, the way I see it, and maybe I'm reading it wrong, is that you have two sets of restrictive covenants. You have the restrictive covenants that live in the deeds that run with the property that we assumed as part of buying the property. Then we have the restrictions that the DEP has said after the remediation, that to use the property, you have to abide by those restrictions. Those restrictions, the ones the DEP have issued, are significantly less restrictive than the ones that are in the original deed. So right now, based on my understanding and reading of the documents, we're trying to eliminate the restrictive covenants that are in the deed. And then that will allow us over time to address the restrictions that are placed on the property by the DEP.
Could you clarify? And it's been a while since I read that, so I'm just going to apologize for that up front.
And just stay close to your microphone.
I know, it's
right?
so hard to remember. I'm not sure, let's just talk about like Spencer's Landing side. So the covenants that are in the deeds, when I read those, I didn't see a lot of difference between that and the DEP covenants on Spencer's Landing, because it talked about groundwater, what it could be used for and so forth. So for Spencer's Landing, was there any difference in the covenants from the DEP on Spencer's Landing and the covenants from John's Manville through the deed?
The restrictive covenants that I've looked at, well, first off, the city of Vienna passed at the DEP's, not the DEP, the EPA's request, an ordinance prohibiting the drilling of freshwater, potable water wells, drinking water wells in the city several years ago. So that restriction is probably, while it exists in the Manville deeds themselves, it's probably not as meaningful as some of the others. So the restriction that I'm looking at in the special warranty deed, and I'm just looking at the one from Manville Structures. The first one talks about subsurface groundwater shall remain in place and undisturbed and can't be accessed for any purpose, under any circumstances, used as potable water, drinking water, or for anything other than sampling, testing, or other activities, provided, other activities reasonably related to remediation by monitoring or remediation wells, provided that the groundwater may be disturbed ancillary Two are in conjunction with construction where access to contact with groundwater is unintended. So, I mean, if you dig a hole, you dig into the water table or whatever, you know, that's not an end of the world situation. Just don't drink it, and then, you know, don't use it for anything other than a test. But we have a restriction that in the city of Vienna, we have an ordinance that prohibits you from drilling a well anyway. And then the second is, says no portion of the property at any time may be utilized for residential purposes, hereby defined to include but not limited to dormitories, single or multiple family housing, apartments, condos, co-ops, assisted living facilities, child daycare centers, churches, schools, hospitals, hospices, nursing homes, convalescent homes, or hotels, motels. And essentially, if you tried to do that, they could file an injunction and enjoin you from using the property for that. And that is essentially the main one, because, and what that does is basically prevents the property from being developed in a way that people could be on the property for more than, you know, 24 hours. So or for multiple consecutive, you know, time periods. And that is different than the restrictive covenants that I don't want to confuse it by mixing up the terms. That is different from the directions that the DEP has set, because the DEP does not have that restriction, or at least not in the same fashion that this does. So to remove these from the deed would loosen that up and potentially could make the property again more marketable, or allow it to be more, allow there to be more options to use the property. I don't know how else to say it. There are two different things. Imagine, tonight I'm apparently not very good at analogies, but yeah, imagine there's everybody plays Monopoly. You have the rules that come in the box, and then you have the family rules, right? And what we have is we're playing with both sets of rules, and we just need to take one of the sets of rules away and just play with the other one. And so that's where we're at with the restrictions in the deed. It's not going to make a terrible lot of difference, but it is going to make some difference. I don't think the restrictions that are in place now, either from the DEP or the restrictive covenants, are in any way affecting our ability to use the property in the way that we've been using it, but it certainly would limit, even if it's a small limitation, potential future uses of the property.
Now, are you talking about Spencer's Landing right now?
I'm talking about all of them together.
All of them
I'm
together,
saying
okay.
what the restrictive covenants that are in place for Spencer's Landing, those restrictive covenants are in addition to the restrictive covenants that are in the deed. Any covenants that the DEP has come up for the concrete side or the industrial side, those would be in addition to the restrictive covenants that are in the deed. So what we want to do is just get rid of the ones that are in the deed, and then we can deal with whatever they are with the DEP. And that gives us, when I say that gives you flexibility, we can continue, if we had to at some point, to do different remediation. The point is, you don't have to deal with an entity that's in Colorado to figure out what you're going to deal with the property. You can deal with the entity that's in Charleston. So if you get to a point where you want to try and change the restrictive covenants, you make a proposal that we're going to do something else with the property, or we'll do additional remediation. And I'm not saying council is or isn't going to do that, but if a council decided to do that, then they would just be dealing with one entity as opposed to two, and the rules that you would have would be less restrictive, because you would only have the one set that belonged to the one entity, and that would be at least a local entity.
Are there other council members that have discussion?
Yeah, so I'm pretty well tracking with what we're talking about here. I guess the biggest question I'd have, and I don't know if anybody necessarily sitting here would be able to answer it, was do we feel confident in the due diligence that we've done on the production side to assume that risk as the city, by basically releasing Manville from, all risk by, signing the release? Are we prepared to take on that risk? Do we feel confident enough that we've done our due diligence to, if we do change the covenants of the property, if we do get the land covenants changed, down the road to use it in a way that's contrary to the way the covenants read now, are we prepared to take on that risk?
And if that question is rhetorical, I appreciate the question. If that's a question that you're asking me, I would prefer not to answer that question in public, not because I want to hide anything, but because, as I've been told as a lawyer and learned over the years, I don't want to know the answer. I don't want to have an answer that I don't know before the question is asked.
Yeah, and that's why I say I don't think it's necessarily something we could really have an answer for, if we would, I mean, personally, because I've, like on a pipeline project, you know, we have professionals, we have environmental consultants, we have, you know, inspection consultants that come in and they give us those answers, because that's what they're paid to do, that's what their job description is for, specifically giving us those answers. So I would think, and maybe I'm assuming we've done that to some level, but have we done that to and again, this is rhetorical, have we done that to a level that gives us that, as a city, that level of confidence to say, all right, man, well, we're gonna release you of all liability and we're now going to assume that risk. Again, I don't think these are questions that necessarily get answered tonight, but just questions that I have. So.
Anyone else? Moving then on to the next item.
Aaron had his hand up.
Who? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you down there.
I was kind of quiet over here.
Oh, you were hiding, I'm sorry.
I don't think it really makes a whole lot of difference anyway. If we do something that exposes a poison in the land that causes damage to somebody, we're gonna be responsible, and John Manville is also gonna be responsible because they put it there in the first place, so it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference.
That all you got?
I think that's pretty nice.
Yeah, that's good. Looking for any other hands? Nope. All right, moving on to the next item on our agenda is a resolution to appoint Mayor Chad Emmerich as the council representative on the Vienna Utility Board. Mr. Skogstad, do you want to read that?
The only question I have is the utility board does pay, I think, something like $50 a meeting. Is the mayor going to participate in taking the $50 from the meeting or not?
I am not.
Okay, then I don't have an issue with the mayor voting on the issue. So, let me get it here. This is a resolution approving Chad Emmerich as Vienna City Council appointing him representative to the Vienna Utility Board. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna, per Vienna Municipal Code 103.02, that Vienna Council member, Mayor Chad Emmerich, is hereby appointed to serve as the Vienna Council representative to the Vienna Utility Board for one full term. Said term to begin upon approval of council and ending December 31st, 2029.
Do I have a motion to accept this resolution?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Open for discussion? No discussion? At this time, those that are in favor? Yep. Oh. Those that are in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to agenda item number 3. We are addressing 2 vacancies that we have on the Vienna Utility Board. We have 3 individuals that have been nominated by 2 members of the current council each. To do this evening, I am going to ask that each of the individuals that are being considered, I'm going to give you 3 minutes to be able to address the council, share a little bit about yourself and why you believe that you should be appointed to this position. Then I will open it up for questions from the council. So the first individual that we have is Mr. Randall Rapp. If you would come to the podium, sir.
How you feel? Go up there and talk with him. That's right.
Well, good evening. I'm not prepared for 3 minutes, so you'll get the shortened version this evening. As you all are aware, I was one of the original founders of the Vienna Utility Board, and so I've been on it since the existence, and I'm very familiar with all of the state and federal rules that come along with being part of a utility board. when I was asked to do this, you know, I don't have anything else to do, so I'm very happy to serve on the utility board. My understanding is Mr. Leach is going to be the chairman of the utility board. I've always had an excellent working relationship with Mr. Leach, and so I look forward to that. Mr. Metz and I have worked very well together for the last 20 years, and so I am very happy to be part of this if you all will have me. And the knowledge and the contacts that I've made both in our area and in Charleston, I think will benefit the utility board greatly. So, thank you.
Sir, if you'll remain there, just, does anyone have any questions? You gotta raise your hand a little higher. I can't see it all the way down here.
I just want to thank you for volunteering.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions? Our next individual for consideration is Mr. Michael Simmons.
Mayor, Council, thanks for having me. I'm not the best public speaker, so I'll apologize for that in advance. I'm not exactly sure what you want to know, but I live at 401 51st Street. I moved to Vienna in 2010 because my spouse was from here. I lived in Parkersburg before. I have 2 children. I have a 3-year-old son named Ethan, a 3-month-old son named Carter. I have a bachelor's degree from Marietta College, which my major was management and leadership studies. I was also a McDonough Scholar while I was there. I have a master's of business administration from Ohio University, and I have a master's of public administration from Ohio University. As part of that education process, I did a lot of work with city planning and development, and I did my internship, well, 2 internships, one with the city of Parkersburg in planning and development, and I did the other one with Baranya County Hospital in Page, Hungary, in working with their privatizing healthcare in Hungary. Since 1999, I've been the managing partner of Simmons Insurance. We have 5 offices with 22 employees. I've served on a lot of boards here in the community since I came back from graduate school. I'm the past president of the ARC board. I've been on SW Resources and a couple others. Somebody asked me earlier, what could I bring to the table? I think it's that I work well with people. I'm a team player. You know, I'll be at the meetings. If you need me, I'll be there. And I think I work well with people to facilitate, you know, a mutual outcome. I don't know if there was anything else. My reason in wanting to do it or to get involved is it's simple. I live here. I want to give something back to the community. I have 2 kids that are going to grow up here, and I just want to see Vienna be the best it can be. I mean, that's pretty much my agenda. So I may not have answered everything, so ask if you have questions.
Do we have questions for Mr. Simmons this evening?
I would like to ask a couple questions,
Sure.
if you're okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was your initial reason for wanting to be on the utility board? What made you decide to do that?
Kind of like what I said to you earlier. Basically, I live here. It's my home. I'm raising 2 kids here. I want to make sure that Vienna grows and that it develops and that it's a good place to raise my children. And I want to give back to the community. I've been lucky. You know, I feel like I've been blessed living here and lucky in life, and I feel like I have some talents I can give back.
Okay. I had something else I wanted to ask. Oh, did you happen to fill out, are we even using the application that's on the city site for people to be appointed to boards and commissions?
No, we did not use that in this case.
Okay.
Well, we have been using it for years.
Because it would be helpful, because it has all the things that you went over,
Uh-huh.
you know, like your education, but it also talks about your interests and things like that.
Sure.
So maybe in the future we could use that.
I didn't know about that. I would gladly fill it out. I apologize.
No, I think it's like Russ said, we haven't been using it, and probably a lot of people don't even know. So.
It's an informational that, when I ask about it, it was for those individuals that weren't making direct connection with any council member or representative and just wanted to get their information to the city to say, if I could be of service, these are my interests, plug me in where
Sure.
I could be best used.
But that application has a lot of really good I've got it actually right here. Because it asks for, like, are there times that you can't attend meetings? Are you available to attend meetings? About your commissions and boards, civic and service organization, your academic credentials, experience that would prepare you. I like to see us using, it's not important tonight.
I understand.
But in the future, I think it would be great to use so that we do have an idea of, what a person's experience and everything is.
Well, feel free to ask me anything from there you want to. The one thing you did mention that I don't think I addressed, that you just, when you were talking about those things, I can be at the meetings, that's not a problem. My father and I own the business, I'm the managing partner, but I sort of create my own schedule. So my understandings are the meetings are at 1 o'clock, I think, the third
Friday.
Yeah, so it's no problem for that. If they need to change them, I can be flexible. I don't see any problem with my schedule. I kind of set my own, so it shouldn't be an issue that I'm aware of.
Have you attended any of the Vienna Utility Board meetings?
No, ma'am,
today?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else on there that I can answer for you?
Not for me.
Okay.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you guys very much for the time.
Our third individual for consideration this evening is Ms. Kim Williams.
I feel like I was just here. I didn't use my time very wisely and get to the point of what I really wanted to discuss. So as everybody knows, I was on council for 4 years. And when I was on council, I was put on the Vienna Utility Board as one of the council members. Okay, so I have 4 years of service under my belt. And during that time of my service, a lot of things happened at the utility board. ARPA money came in, and I feel like I worked well with the board, and the board made great decisions on how that ARPA money got used for water and sewer and infrastructure projects, water, sewer, and stormwater. And there are about $30 million worth of projects on the current master plan that everybody's aware of. But in addition to that, there are, there's all the development that's happening at the OBU campus involving the WVUP Foundation and the Board of Education for the new school. And that's going to be a really big lift for the utility board. They're going to have water and sewer needs as well as stormwater needs. And so I think this is a time, because as I mentioned earlier, stuff does not come back to council. That 5-member board up there, they have their own budgets. They are going to be approving their own contracts, et cetera. So things are going to be moving to help the development of Vienna and what's happening, at OBU, and also, just all the things that need to get done. So I feel like I'm a very strong board member. I have really educated myself about the utility board. I have attended every utility board meeting for the last 6 years. So I started 2 years before I was ever on council, and then of course I never missed a meeting when I was on council. The same as with city council. I've been very engaged in everything that's been happening in the city of Vienna for the last 6 years. So I'm very well versed in that. I would like to mention that I have the recommendation of the Public Works Director, Mr. Craig Metz, and my understanding that recommendation went to the mayor. I have the support of the former mayor, if I believe. Certainly you're welcome to ask him. And I had the confidence of the last council who unanimously voted for me for the unexpired term of Mr. Steve Eaton. So I think just from talking to a few of you, there were some current concerns that, I didn't play well with others on the board, which that's not the case at all. And once again, I think if you talk to the mayor, Mayor Rapp, that is, he will, we had a good relationship on the board. We were all working to get the quality of services that we need in Vienna with water and sewer. So I feel that I'm knowledgeable, I'm experienced, and I have the...
Ms. Williams, your time's up.
Okay.
Do we have questions? None? Thank you very much. Moving then to the individual resolutions appointing the Vienna Utility Board members. We have three. They are listed in alphabetical order. The first motion, or the first resolution that we will address and vote on is that for the appointment of Randall C. Rapp to the Vienna City Utility Board. Mr. Skogstad, would you like to read that?
This is a resolution approving the appointment of Randall C. Rapp to the Vienna Utility Board. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that Randall C. Rapp, qualified citizen of the City of Vienna, is hereby appointed to serve as a director of and on the Vienna Utility Board for one full 4-year term. Said term to begin upon approval of council, beginning February 25th, 2025, and ending February 24th, 2029.
Do I have a motion to accept? Do I have a second?
Mr. Leach.
Mr. Leach.
Made an initial. Mr. Geisler, second.
Open for discussion.
I just have a couple questions about the resolution itself. This is John Barr's unexpired term, I believe.
That's correct.
Okay, and that
Well,
term,
it's either one. You have two unexpired terms that are coming up at the same time, but I'll get to that with Mr. Middleton's resolution. There's when they end.
well, the issue is that, I mean, this is for February 25th of this year. We need to have a resolution for Mr. Rapp to take over Mr. Barr's unexpired term. If not, he can't serve, he can't attend or be part of the utility board meeting in February.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to have a utility, well, with the two new ones, are there 5 on there? Yeah, you would be able to do it with a quorum. You would have Mr. Leach, Mr. Brookover, not Brookover, Mr. Thorpe, and then you would have, obviously, your
Okay, so
Mr.
that's,
Emery. So you'd
I
have
was
enough
just
for a
thinking,
quorum.
Mr. Rapp.
Oh, and, I'm sorry, and Ms. Williams, that's correct.
If Mr. Rapp wanted to attend, I mean, and be a voting member in February, he just wouldn't be able to, unfortunately.
He would not be able to participate until his term began.
The other question I have is that in our ordinance, it talks, the first appointment, like when the utility board was established, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Rapp.
Can you speak directly into your mic?
I'm trying.
I know.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to do your head on a swivel around the microphone.
Anyway, that the first round of appointees were for 1, 2, and 3, and in the ordinance it says 4, but we only had 3 residents on the committee. And so that's so that the terms rotate, and that, like right now, with these being voted on in the way they are, unless we come back and redo it, then every resident on the utility board's term is going to expire in 2029. So I was just wondering if it would be wise at this time. I asked Mr. Metz before the meeting when Joe Thorpe's term expired, and he thinks it expires next year.
It does.
It does. So then we need a person that would expire 2 years, and then a person that would expire 3 years. So I was wondering if we want to change the date on this, or we have, never mind. We have one that expires this year. Yeah, we have to have 1, 2, and 3 year terms, right?
Well, no. For the initial terms of the utility board, you did, and the intent was to try to have those terms staggered, so you would have consistency across the board. Unfortunately, because people dropped on and off the board, or the way they were nominated and so forth, that didn't happen. So now we have the time periods that we have. We're slowly trying to correct it, but I don't think you can. The ordinance says after those first 3 terms that everybody that you, or after those, the 1, 2, and 3, that initial first term, that everybody appointed subsequent terms is appointed for a full 4 years. I mean, I think it's a thing you're just going to have to live with at this point, unless we modify the ordinance at some point later to change that. But as it stands now, I think everybody is up for a full 4-year term. And I know what the initial intent was, but however it worked out is how it worked out. And so we're trying to move forward with.
And I think the intention of that is so that, you know, with everyone expiring the same time, we don't lose all that experience and knowledge at one time, which would be devastating, you know, for a utility board to lose.
I'm looking at a bunch of new faces.
You are right now.
This council can be reset every 4 years with all new individuals. There is no staggering to this board and no requirement for staggering on this board. All 7 members of this council can be.
I'm not talking about that.
I understand that, but I'm saying the standard is that it can be reset. So unless we want to address the ordinance and update the ordinance, at some time we can do that. But as it stands now, these appointments are for 4 years.
Right, I'm just saying the initial intent was for them to be staggered.
And I agree with you, but we're where we're at.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
I just have a comment. I just wanted to say specifically to Mr. Rapp for, thank him for willing to come out and serve again in this capacity. I think the city would benefit greatly from having him in this position, and I'm thankful personally, and I think the city's thankful that he's willing to come out and do it again. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you, Tony. My wife said it was okay.
But you have to keep the meetings at 1 p.m. so it doesn't get too late. I too had several conversations with Mr. Rapp during this process, and learned a lot about him and a lot about his service in general to that. And I feel very comfortable and confident that he will bring a wealth of knowledge to the table and will be a great benefit continuing in his service to our city. Call a question. All those in favor of the current resolution appointing Randall C. Rapp to the Vienna Utility Board signify by raising your right hand. Opposed? The motion carries 6-1. Moving to our second resolution.
And I just want to clarify, I agree with Ms. Williams. I think this needs to reflect the same date as the previous position, because it is to fill an open position. So unless somebody wants to object to it, and this should have read, and I think this was written as a placeholder and it didn't get updated. I'm going to read it with the intent, because you only have 2 terms or 2 spots to fill, and they're concurrent. Those terms are concurrent with each other. This is a resolution approving the appointment of Michael Simmons to the Vienna Utility Board to a full regular term. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna for Municipal Code 10302. Michael Simmons, a qualified citizen and resident of the City of Vienna of outstanding reputation, ability, and integrity, is hereby appointed to serve as a director of the Vienna Utility Board to a full regular term to begin February 25th, 2025 and ending February 24th, 2029.
Do I have a motion on the floor to accept the resolution?
So,
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve this resolution. Open for discussion.
would it be appropriate to make a motion to amend for that minor change there?
You can if you want. Like I said, I was looking at it as scrivener's error, but if you want to make a motion to amend it, that would certainly be cleaner than what I had done. The written motion, having read January 1st, 2025, ending January 1st, 2029, but if you want to move to amend it to reflect the correct dates.
I'd move to amend to correct that.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded.
All in favor of changing the date, signify by raising your right hand.
Okay. Now let's go back to the resolution as it was. It's been moved and seconded for Mr. Middleton's consideration for the utility board.
Correct. Open for discussion.
Or
Mr. Simmons.
Sorry.
I got you. Open for discussion.
I'd like to say a few things. When I started running for office, I started campaigning, what I told everyone and what I said to myself and to others was that my only goal in being on council was to do the absolute right thing for the city. And that right thing, I have to believe in. And to me, the utility board is the most I can't say the most, but maybe the most, or one of the most important departments in the city. I said last time, we have millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars of projects that's coming up. We have people that are depending on us, companies, you know, I mean, WVUP, the schools, everything, and all those people are depending on our utility board to be able to handle that, and I don't doubt that they can. But my concern is, my belief is that this person should be the best and most qualified person to do this job. The way it stands right now, and no offense to anyone, but if we elect Mr. Simmons, we're going to have 2 people on the utility board that don't have any experience. And I know everyone has to start somewhere, and I don't have a problem with that. I've started at, with no knowledge on a lot of things. But I think this is too important. I think we need people with experience and that have the qualifications. It's no offense to you, Mr. Simmons, it's that I just truly believe that we have to put the best person for that job with the qualifications and the experience. And I just felt like I needed to say that because it really is, to me, is what's best for the city.
Absolutely, and we each come into this with our own personal opinions on who these selections should be. I have looked at the utility board and I have looked at those individuals that are serving. Mr. Metz, who is our public works director, is absolutely incredibly probably the most knowledgeable person that sits within our community on what's going on. And the utility board draws heavily from his experience and his recommendation. Mr. Rapp obviously has a tremendous amount of experience that he brings to it as well. And will use, with combination with Mr. Metz, I believe, the ability to mentor and to grow these new selections and to prepare us to take our next steps forward as a city. And I would not have made any recommendations for anybody had I not felt fully confident that they would be able to serve and fulfill these roles that they will be required to do on the Vienna Utility Board.
And I respect that, and I respect what you're saying. When I think of it as what's best for the city, I don't think of a subjective definition of who's best. I look at the qualifications and what their experience is. And I don't doubt that Mr. Simmons could be great, but what we have in front of us is a candidate that does have the qualifications and experience already. And that's a given and that's a proven. And Mr. Metz does support her. And so, it's kind of hard when you got, one that you're voting on and one yet to come. That's kind of hard. But, that's where I'm coming from. It's a very objective decision based on someone's actual qualifications and experience.
Is there other discussion?
I just want to address the age thing since I'm the oldest person behind this. I think it's important to have young people. I understand starting out with little experience and knowledge, because when I applied for law school, I was not even accepted. The dean called a week, this before cell phones, called on landline a week before law school. A week after law school started, said somebody didn't show up, so they let me in, and I seem to have done okay. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. And I've known Michael Simmons for a good while. He'll rise to the occasion.
I also got a very good recommendation for Mr. Simmons from Mr. Rapp. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, I'll just say, there's not exactly dozens of people lining up for these volunteer positions in the city. And anybody, in my opinion, anybody that's willing to come out and put forth the effort, this is, you're gonna have some time, you're gonna have to do some research, there's gonna be time spent away from your family, away from your job, doing things specifically for the city. Anybody with the intent to perform a job like that, in my opinion, is a good person and definitely has the best for the city in their hearts. So I just wanted to say, Mr. Simmons, regardless of how this vote goes, I appreciate your willingness to come out and do this for us, so thank you.
Are there any other discussion points? With no further discussion, I make a motion that we accept this resolution.
It's already been moved and
Oh,
seconded.
yes. Then I call for the question.
As amended.
As amended, with the correct dates. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same?
I will abstain.
With one abstain. The motion passes. Congratulations to you both. With the 2 vacant positions being filled, Mr. Skogstad, how do we address the third remaining resolution?
Now, it's been rendered moot because you have 2 spots open and you have 2 candidates that you filled it.
All right. Moving on to the next item of business on our agenda is a resolution appointing Kim Young to the Civil Service Commission. I don't see Kim here, is she? You're not hiding?
Kim's not, I don't see her.
When the position became available, that is how we came into contact with Kim Young's name to be put forth. I am confident in moving forward tonight in addressing this without her being here. Mr. Skogstad, will you read the resolution?
This is a resolution appointing Kim Young to the Civil Service Commission. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna as per Vienna Municipal Code 13902, that Kim Young, a duly qualified citizen of the City of Vienna, shall be appointed to the Civil Service Commission as the city's representative for a full 4-year term to begin February 1st, 2025 and ending February 1st, 2029. This is an unpaid voluntary position.
I make a motion, we approve the resolution.
I second. Open for discussion? Ms. Young, I will say that she came very highly recommended from our former Chief of Police, Chief Pfeiffer. I was able to speak with her and feel very confident in her ability to fill and serve in this position. With no other discussion, all those in favor of passing the resolution as read signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same? No. Motion passes unanimously. Next item on our agenda is a resolution appointing Mr. Chuck Knopfsinger to the Transit Board, the MOVTA Board. This evening, this is a reappointment for Mr. Knopfsinger.
This is a resolution reappointing Chuck Knopfsinger to the Mid-Ohio Valley Transit Authority Board. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna as per Vienna Municipal Code 13902, that Chuck Knopfsinger, a duly qualified citizen of the City of Vienna, shall be reappointed to the Mid-Ohio Valley Transit Authority as the city's representative for a full 3-year term to begin upon approval of council. This is an unpaid voluntary position.
Do I have a motion to accept this resolution as read?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
Go Chuck.
Good job. With no discussion, all those that are in favor of approving the resolution as read signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same?
Abstain.
With one abstain. The next item on our agenda is appointing Mr. Craig Metz to the Vienna Planning Commission.
It's a resolution appointing Craig Metz to the City of Vienna Planning Commission as the City of Vienna Administrative Representative. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that Craig Metz is hereby appointed to serve as the Vienna Administrative Representative to the Planning Commission, with this term begin upon approval of council. This term of membership is the same as his term of office.
Do I have a motion to accept the resolution as written?
So moved.
A motion and a second. Open for discussion. I think Mr. Leach.
I just have a question about the wording. And I know it's the same as the state code.
Yeah.
But since it says, as the same as his term of office, but since Craig doesn't have a term of office, is this okay to do it like this? I don't know.
Well, I mean, technically, you could appoint Craig and he could serve until he's removed. I mean, but the reason it was written this way is just to get some timeline on it. There's the city administrative representative, from what I recall from both the statute and from the statute, doesn't lay a specific term, doesn't set a specific term. So, you know, I mean, the way that it's written, if the mayor were to name himself or a member of council were to be named as the city administrative representative, and I think that might be nebulous for a council member, it would be consistent with the term of office and you would have to reappoint. Mr. Metz, I think it's reasonable that that's how we approach this one, is that Mr. Metz's term would end at the end of the four-year term, January 1st, 2029. But I just wrote it the way the code says it.
Okay, thank you.
I don't make the law.
Any other discussion? With no further discussion, do I have a motion to, I had a motion. I go back, look, I get into the discussion, then I forget where I was. With no further discussion, all those in favor of passing the resolution as written, signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously, or resolution passes unanimously. The next item on our agenda this evening is item number 7. It is a resolution adopting best practices.
It's lengthy, and it's my understanding that this is Ms. Rose and Mr. Lee's resolution. Do you want me to read it by title only?
Has all of council, excuse me, has all the council had an opportunity to read this? You can read it by title only.
Thank you. This is a resolution adopting the top 10 best practices for newly elected officials.
Open for discussion?
We
didn't vote second. I must be getting hungry. Do I have a motion on the floor to accept the resolution as written?
Yes.
Moved and.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second.
All right. Now we can have some discussion.
Yeah, the other question I have is this the same top 10 best practices that we had 4 years ago?
Yes, it was passed 4 years ago, and Mr. Leach wrote that for the council.
I meant to ask you that when you called me, but I forgot to ask.
Was that passed 4 years ago?
Yes.
What, was it passed, or did, Mr. Leach, did you just ask council members?
No, it was passed.
Wow.
I think this is just a refresher.
It is. I just think it says some really good things, you know, and I just wanted it to be a reminder to everyone that we work together as a team, and, you know, just what it says, the best practices. I think it's a good outline of things.
Best practices 2.0.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, going through, I agree, it's best practices. Working outside of government, you need to do this to be able to be employed. Because if you look and think about some of the behavior that's happened at our city council over the years amongst the people sitting up here.
Can you make sure you talk into
Yeah,
your microphone?
amongst the people sitting at the table. This wasn't followed. And that's very disappointing if people did sign off and agree to this and didn't follow through. You know, as a resident complaining or talking at the podium, they're gonna say what they're gonna say because they got stuff to get off their chest and they want to be heard. But amongst ourselves, we may not agree, but we gotta get along to move things forward.
in a company, things don't move forward unless everybody comes into agreement. You do so respectfully. You don't go running around chastising people on public media or social media, whatever you want to call it. If you got something to say, you can say it in a nice way and be direct to the person. Only cowards hide behind social media. So I like this. I mean, this is something that people need to follow. I support it.
I am not opposed to having this printed and hung within council chambers as a reminder as we come in to conduct the business. Any other discussion? With no other discussion, I call for the question. All those in favor of adopting this resolution as written, signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. You okay?
Yes, I'm fine.
Where are we at? Best practices. Item number 8 is a resolution to donate 44 chairs to the Wood County Recreation Commission.
This is a resolution to donate 44 chairs to the Wood County Recreation Commission. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that as per Vienna Municipal Code 107.04 disposition of municipal property to nonprofits, the City of Vienna donates 44 chairs having de minimis value, being the same chairs that were formerly used in City Council chambers, to the Wood County Recreation Commission, a 501c3, for the public benefit of furthering child sports and recreation in Wood County, West Virginia. Council finds that the Commission's objectives benefit the public, that it no longer needs the property, that the property has a de minimis value, and that the Commission needs the property to further its mission. As is required by ordinance, should the Commission cease to operate, the Commission or its replacement must return the property to the city. If the chairs become damaged or otherwise unusable, the Commission is authorized to dispose of them with an appropriate waste disposal service.
Do I have a motion on the floor to accept the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Open for discussion? To my understanding, these are the old council chairs that were here. If you spend any time on those chairs, you understand that we're not really giving them a whole lot. They will use them, I'm sure. Any other discussion?
I just want to let you folks know, I spoke with our finance director. The chairs are presently in storage. They're not being used. They do have de minimis value. They were getting ready to be put out for auction on Gov Deals. This is certainly within both our municipal ordinances, the home rule particularly, and it's also my opinion, it's eligible under state code. But because Wood County Recreation is a 501c3, without getting in the weeds, but there is some involvement with the county commission as well. So, but you do have to make the finding, and I'm going to assume by the vote that you're making the finding that you recognize that Wood County Rec has a public interest in furtherance of child sports and recreation, that they will be able to use these materials, and these chairs have a de minimis value to the city. And I just want to make sure we were making something for them.
All right. Any other discussion? No further discussion. If you're in favor of passing this resolution as written, signify by raising your right hand. Resolution passes unanimously. Item number 9 on our resolution is an authorization to purchase a radio receiver.
This is a resolution authorizing the purchase of a radio receiver repeater replacement from Miller Communications in an amount not to exceed $46,000, finding that it is exempt from the competitive bid process. Be resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that Chief Scholl of the Vienna Volunteer Fire Department is authorized to purchase a radio receiver repeater replacement from Miller Communications outside of the competitive bid process in an amount not to exceed $46,000 for this reason set out in Chief Scholl's attached letter to the Finance Director. And I'm assuming you all have a copy of that letter in the trial.
Yes.
Yes. Is there any discussion?
Well, no, we don't. We need a vote. We need to.
See, I gotta eat. I gotta bring snacks to these things so I can function right.
It's okay. It's okay. You'll get that.
You have a motion? Second? I'll second it.
So it's been moved and seconded. Is ready for discussion?
Yes. and to eat, I think, but, is there any discussion on this matter?
I only got one comment. In the future, when we do buy stuff and say it's something like this, that we go through and declare that up front. I mean, that way you don't have to go through this later, say, hey, if it's gonna be maintained by a certain company, because they're the only ones that do it and they guarantee any warranties, that's what we do. I mean, going through and you're buying software systems, you know, the plans to control stuff, you're not gonna have a second party do the work from, instead of the person that created the software or the equipment. So, I support.
Any other discussion? With no further discussion, all those in favor of passing the resolution as written, please signify by raising your right hand. Resolution passes unanimously, or the authorization.
I think this is our last one.
This is our last one. Right. Item number 10 on our agenda this evening is a resolution to accept $65,577.06 from the opioid settlement.
This is a you guys ever watch Star Trek? I feel like I'm Lieutenant Uhura, where I'm just repeating what he says. But this is a resolution to accept $65,577.06 received as a result of the ongoing opioid litigation settlement. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that as the City of Vienna has received an additional $65,577.06 from the ongoing opioid litigation settlement, Council orders it deposited in Fund 26 opioid settlement. Any expenditures from said fund shall be in accord with purchasing procedures set forth in municipal ordinances and any budget appropriations approved by Vienna City Council.
Do I have a motion to accept the resolution for the $65,000 plus?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second, open for discussion.
What we need to do, so we don't end up on HBO, prior administrations did, that, you know, whatever funds are accepted, that we define and have a playbook of what is allowed and what is not allowed for use of the money and funds, regardless, okay? Because that was not a good publication for the city of Vienna.
I did take time and early on met with Mayor Joyce from Parkersburg, and he went over in depth on left and right parameters of what could and could not be done with this money. That was a very educational process. I do intend to sit down with him again and go over that. He, of course, sits as the chairman of the much larger fund of money that is available through the opioid settlement funds. So I agree we need to formulate a plan on how this money is spent and that this money is spent properly and within the, again, left and right parameters that were allowed, and that it is used to benefit our community to its max capabilities.
So
So,
you sit down and talk to them and get the list, share with all of us.
absolutely. Go ahead, sir.
Russ, do I need to recuse myself?
You know what, that's right, you were, it probably doesn't matter, but why don't we just, it's already been accepted, but why don't we just go ahead and recuse yourself just because, now that I think about it. I mean, I don't think it makes any difference, but.
Just to keep it clean.
Yeah, just keep it clean.
I think it's gonna pass.
Yeah, and when you recuse yourself, you know the rule, you gotta leave the room until you're asked to come back, so. Bye, Harry.
Thanks. Can you give us a call?
Hey, make sure you come back.
Harry, if you see any snacks on that table, do we need to shut the door?
It'll stick.
He's going the other room. We're gonna send him out.
He's going all the way out to right and left field.
He's out to the coffee.
All right, is there any other discussion?
I would just like to, at some point, just reiterate what Councilor talked about with the last people, that we really need to look at how we are going to spend this. And the issue wasn't that it was spent wrongly by the city. The issue was that, you know, you can spend it, and law enforcement and things like that are part of that. But, you know, that HBO thing and everything else, the question is, you can, but should you?
Yes.
You know, where should this money go and who should it serve? and it should serve, go to serve the people that are most vulnerable and the people most affected. And I will say right now that I am all for that. I don't want to see it used for anything else.
And I believe that's the overall feeling of council, to see us be good stewards of the money. Once this money is gone, this money is gone.
Yes.
It is not a continuing fund, and once we spend it, it's there, so we need to be, again, very good stewards and make good decisions when it comes to spending.
Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to mention that this takes us up to right around 235,000. Because we didn't actually end up spending the money on the cruisers. It was, the resolution passed, but that never actually happened, so, 170,000 of that money was still sitting in the account, and then you add this, it gives us right around 235. So, it's almost $250,000 we've got sitting, that I think it'd be important for, at some point, council to have a discussion on a good way to spend this, maybe even get some insight from the public in a way, to see how this could best be spent to benefit our city, to help this, obviously the money is meant to be used to battle against the opioid epidemic. And to Henry's question earlier, there is an Exhibit B that was published. I know it was part of an agenda last year with council, I think, when the money first came out. I think we could probably recirculate that again. That hasn't changed as far as what we are allowed to spend the money on. It lists it out. It's very, very well defined exactly what the money can be used for, and it's very in-depth list. It's got a lot of things on it. So,
any other discussion? One more?
Yeah, I've gotta be careful about if the money's there or not, because when I was talking to Chief Powell today for the budget that's coming up for the upcoming cycle, there's 2 cruisers in that budget. So the question is how are they being paid for? Is it part of those funds or is it different? So that's something that we need to watch and be careful.
Yeah, no, those aren't part of the opioid. His budget that he's submitting is, to my knowledge, is not inclusive of any opioid settlement funds.
Okay.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of accepting this resolution as written, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed? No, none against it.
All right, we're gonna let Harry back in.
All right, let Harry back in.
There he is.
Welcome back. That is all of the agenda items that we have tonight on this evening's City Council agenda. We now move into council comments. Does any council member have any specific comments that they would like to make?
I'll go first. Mark your calendars. I know it's a little ways out, but February 18th is going to be the public forum down at the city building, Jackson Park. The community building down at Jackson Park. I believe 6 p.m. We're going to be discussing the Spencer's Landing. I've attended the steering committee meetings, and I tell you, to see what Thrasher's put together, it's kind of exciting. It's got me excited. I'm really hoping we can get some of the citizens to kind of show up and get to see what all they've got in store for that property. And I think it's exciting to see, and hopefully we can get a lot of attendance. So February 18th, 6 p.m. at the 6:30 p.m. at the community building down at Jackson Park.
Jack, do you have anything to, I'm sorry about that. Oh, you were gonna
Yes.
say that. I was just gonna ask Jack if he had anything to say about that.
If Jack wants to go ahead, Jack.
No, I don't have anything to say except to look forward to that night and everybody attending. It should be good.
Okay, thanks. I do have a point of clarification. I need your thoughts. If all council members show up, are we violating? Are we prohibited in talking so we don't violate open?
So can I go? My intention was to make that a to announce that and publicize that as an actual special meeting so that we can be there, we can interact, and we can be part of that.
Are you gonna agenda it?
Yes.
So you're gonna file a notice, an agenda, or notice of special meeting agenda?
And the agenda item will be, that was the intention, is that not right?
Well, no, it's not that. I'm just trying to think of how you can pragmatically do that, but I don't.
If it's not an official meeting where a quorum is required, the public, it doesn't apply.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, you're allowed to go to educational events, you're allowed to attend functions together, even if there's a quorum. And the only time that it really would trigger if you were all met together as a quorum would be if you were having a discussion or meeting on something that would be in the furtherance of city business. Is this gonna be in furtherance of city business?
I believe it could be perceived as
Well,
that.
but I don't care, I mean, the perception then is one thing, but I mean, is it actually, I mean, what is this gonna do?
The way they talked about how this will go, they're going to have,
Small group sessions and.
you're gonna have things up on the wall, and people be able to go along and put, stickers or magnets on it to say what they like. And then they're going to have the small group sessions. And I think as long as a group, we don't make any kind of decision, or as a group, we say what we want.
I mean, I think if you're not discussing it with each other at the meeting, I think you're probably fine.
Well, so we're not allowed to talk to each other.
I mean,
we can't talk to each other.
Sometimes it's a blessing.
Yeah, I'm not ignoring you, I just can't talk to you.
Yeah, I don't think you could discuss with each other what you're seeing, but I don't know why you couldn't interact with the rest of the group.
Thanks, Tony, for bringing this up this evening, I appreciate it.
I know, I wasn't even finished with my comments yet.
Sorry.
So.
Go ahead.
Good. All right. Yeah, so just wanted to say, and I know we recognize the workers this morning. Obviously, we had back-to-back snowstorms there. They did an excellent job keeping the roads clear, keeping the citizens safe. And I thought Mr. Flynn did bring up a good point tonight, and maybe something I could discuss with Craig, or maybe even put it on an agenda in the future to discuss how we could try and maintain the bus stops as far as the sidewalks where the buses are stopping. There are some folks in the city that tend to run around either on tricycles or like the motor scooters and stuff, and it becomes kind of a hazard whenever I've actually watched people walking in the road on Grand Central because there is no sidewalk. So maybe worth agending something to have a discussion about that and in the future.
Mr. Sass. 2 weeks ago, I brought up the comment about the bus stops. That was something that my wife and I observed. You figure the bus stop would be the responsibility of the Public Transit Authority to clear out that section. Sidewalks, pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, is the responsibility of the business or the residents for the sidewalk that's in front of their house. For the meeting that they're gonna have about the Thrasher Group, is that gonna be the time to bring in, like a realtors and our assessor, just to get an understanding, or do we need to bring them into a meeting here to talk about impact on people's taxes? Because I brought this up 2 weeks ago, as well as, the desirability on resale value of homes in that area. Because, when you do development, whatever kind it is, if it's a school, if it's stuff like this, people are gonna say, well, I wanna be there, I don't wanna be there. Everyone's always for it whenever it's not in their backyard. So, we have planned to bring someone in to talk from the assessors group as well as from the realtors group?
At this stage, no. There hasn't been discussion on that. It's something that would come to council and taking into consideration. These meetings have been solely intended to focus on developing ideas, putting forth vision, and looking to be what can be done. When it comes to how it will impact, how those suggestions will impact our community, impact residents that live around, and also impact property values, those are items that would come to the city council that we would take into consideration and make decisions on regarding those choices.
I just want the sidewalk thing.
The sidewalk.
Just to point out for council and for the public that would listen, Vienna Municipal Code 54104 permitting snow and ice to accumulate on sidewalk. No person shall permit the accumulation of snow and ice upon sidewalk adjacent to any property owned or occupied by such person within the city, but shall remove the same within a reasonable time. It's the responsibility of the businesses and the homeowners to keep their sidewalks clean, just so you folks know. And part of that is because, practically speaking, if Mr. Metzger didn't have a seasonal crew that would just be dedicated to snow blowing.
And that goes back to my comment from 2 weeks ago, we have ordinances. For what purpose then?
Well, yeah, they can be cited. I mean, you can cite individuals for municipal code violations. It's up to, do you want to, how aggressively do you want to enforce or attempt to enforce this? And if you enforce it, you need to enforce it consistently.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, there's an ordinance for a reason, and that's, we either do it or we don't. If we don't, let's get rid of it.
I understand that, but sometimes, yeah, I understand.
Yes. Any other council comments? One final announcement, there was a scheduled power outage that was supposed to affect approximately 65 residents on 17th Street and 6 residents on, I believe, 9th Avenue. When that information was brought to my attention, I contacted our local representative from the power company and told them that from this office, it was unacceptable to put our residents in that situation, especially with the cold temperatures. He then pushed that concern to his superiors, and they have now delayed that to January 30th. So if you know residents that live on 17th Street between the 500 and 1200 block that did not get that update, please let them know that there will not be a power outage in their area until January 30th. That's all I got. Anybody else? Meeting adjourned.